Okay. Here we do. 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 Do do do. Fuck. I always have to clap. What's up, guys? What's up? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Why do I have to clap? Now, oh, fuck me.
Have that whole cake.
You see that there was no toilet paper in the bathroom last night? Or soap. Someone took the soap, put it in the women's bathroom. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. This is my 4th attempt at the introduction, so hopefully this is the one that sticks. Today, you and I are talking about how to stay on track with your nutrition over the holidays. Now, we did an Instagram Q&A. Rico's behind the camera. We thought it would be really cool to get questions directly from Instagram about what you struggle with over the holidays. Before we get to these, I wanna clarify what I mean by saying on track. Because the reality is, there's no one right way to handle your holiday nutrition. What works for you might not work for someone else, and what works for someone else might not work for you, and that's totally okay. Now, generally speaking, there are 2 extreme views in the fitness industry when it comes to holiday nutrition or vacation nutrition, whatever you wanna call it. One of them is like, hey, it's the fucking holidays, you're on vacation, you wanna have a whole fucking cake? Yo, Brian, go have the whole fucking cake. You wanna go have all the pies and the cookies and the treats? Listen, when you get so stuffed that you can't fit another bite in your belly, the meal has just begun. Go fucking ham. That's the one end. And the other end is like, hey, you better track every fucking calorie if you're serious about this, because if you don't, that means you're not serious about your fitness and nutrition. And if you wanna be ripped and you're serious about it, you don't use Thanksgiving as an excuse. You bring your Tupperware with your fucking grilled chicken and your rice and your broccoli, and that's what you do. I went way more in on that than I expected to, but hey, that's where we are, and we're not redoing this again. That being said, I tend to fall somewhere in the middle of all of that. The thing that I really want to get across is whatever you choose, if you decide that you want to go on holiday and not track your calories, that's okay. If you decide you want to go on holiday and you do want to track your calories, that's also okay. Just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean that you have to do it. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean someone else has to do it. So I want to clarify by saying on track. You really have to understand what you want to do with your holiday nutrition. My goal in this video is to ease any anxiety, is to give you some strategies to help you stay on track and or to help you continue to make progress while enjoying the holidays. Because that's my whole goal. I want to help you go to Thanksgiving dinner, go to Christmas, go to Hanukkah, go to whatever you're celebrating and enjoy it without feeling like you're screwing up, without feeling like you made a mistake, without feeling like all your progress is gone, without feeling like you need to binge eat, without feeling bad for saying no to someone who's pushing their food on you because you don't want to eat it. I want you to do what you want to do because you want to do it and it's in your best interest. Basically, I want to give you the tools to go to the holidays and enjoy yourself regardless of what on track means to you. So with that being said, let's get to the Q&A. All right, so Rico, behind the camera, Rico's the man. Rico is the reason why all of this happens. He had a really good idea. Instead of me just randomly picking which question to answer, he wrote them all on a piece of paper, put them in a hat, and he's going to put the hat in front of the camera, pick one out, and I'm just gonna randomly answer whichever one he pulls out. Now, if you don't follow me on Instagram, Rico's gonna put that where? Here, 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 here. Follow me on Instagram if you don't already, so we can take part in Instagram Q&As like this. Let's get to the first one, Rico. The question was, and we got a bunch of variations, but basically, how to stay on track in a calorie deficit throughout the holidays. All right, this is actually perfect. I swear I had no idea Rico was gonna pick that. This was completely by chance, but the reality is, if I could have chosen any one of these to start with, it would have been the calorie deficit one, because all of this is affected by whether or not you choose to stay in a calorie deficit. And it's really important to understand going into the holidays what your goal is. Do you want to go into the holidays looking to lose fat? If you do, that's okay, but that means you're gonna have to be in a calorie deficit, and I'll give you some strategies for that. If you've decided it's the fucking holidays, I don't want to be in a calorie deficit, I don't want to lose fat right now, then you don't have to try and stay in one. And I think this is where a lot of people struggle, because a lot of people go into the holidays without a plan. They don't have a goal. And this is like not just a holiday issue, this is a life issue. They don't have a goal. They don't know what they're trying to achieve. And when you don't know what you're trying to achieve, there's a lot of ambiguity. And ambiguity creates anxiety. So what I want you to do is decide, do you want to be in a calorie deficit? Do you want to spend the holiday season trying to lose fat? Or would you prefer to go into more maintenance or even a surplus? There's no wrong answer. You just have to know what you want to do and stick to it. Now, with all that said, if you decide that you want to lose fat over the holiday season, I'm going to give you some ideas and strategies that you can use. But before I do that, I want to talk to anyone and everyone who's like, yeah, fuck that, I'm not going to try and lose fat over the holidays. Like, I don't want to be in a deficit, which that's me. Like, I do not want to be in a deficit over the holiday season. It's very important that you don't use not being in a deficit as a justification for binging all day, every day, because that's what a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people are either being very strict in a deficit, trying to lose fat, no leeway, or fuck it, and it's not that black and white. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. Realistically, the more extreme you go, the less happy you're gonna be with your results. So if you decide to go into deficit, you definitely don't wanna try and lose a ton of fat over the holiday season. That makes no sense. And if you're not in a deficit, you're not trying to lose fat, you have to set guidelines to keep yourself accountable. And your guidelines don't have to be anything crazy. They can be very simple. You can count your calories even if you're not in a deficit, just to make sure that you're not eating way too much. Or you could use a portion control method where it's like, instead of counting calories, you have the 3 plate and 2 snack rule that I've discussed in other videos, where you have 3 meals and 2 snacks every day. Every meal fits on 1 plate and 2 snacks, each one fits in your palm. Or maybe you're larger. You're like, I'm a smaller guy, I'm 5'4", weigh about 145 pounds, so 3 meals and 2 snacks works for me. But if you're 215 pounds, maybe you'd want 4 meals and 3 snacks. Either way, when you have specific guidelines to follow, you're way less likely to end up binging, and you're way less likely to go off track because you're holding yourself accountable. So having said all of that, if you decide to go into a deficit and try and lose fat over the holidays, how can you do that without driving yourself insane while enjoying the holidays? Now, personally, I think the most important thing you need to do is get your expectations in check. Because if you think that you're going to lose a lot of fat over the holidays while enjoying it, you're out of your fucking mind. You can lose fat without losing a lot of fat. If you lost half a pound of fat over the holiday season, that's awesome. Think about that. If your scale weight went down half a pound, if your body fat went down by half a pound of fat, if your pants are fitting better at the end of the holidays, even just by 1 size, or your belt by 1 notch, that's amazing. Even if, actually, your weight stayed the same. You didn't go down in a belt size. Everything just stayed exactly as it was. Your weight stayed the same. If your goal was to lose fat, but everything stayed exactly as is, you maintained, realistically, that's a fucking win. Because what that means is, you weren't overly restrictive, you got to enjoy, and you didn't lose any progress. And what's even more important is understanding that maintenance is progress. Staying where you are, allowing your body to normalize, your hormones to normalize, to stay exactly where it is. That is massive progress in general, never mind in arguably the single most challenging time of the year. That's amazing. You need to recognize that. And the reason I bring this up and I'm spending so much time on it is because a lot of people, they might decide they want to go into deficit and lose fat over the holidays. But when they don't lose enough, or when the scale fluctuates up and they get pissed, they'll feel like a failure. And then all of a sudden, even though they had decided to stay in a deficit, they give up and they binge for a day, 2 days, a week, and then the scale goes up a bunch. And even though their goal was to stay in a deficit, now they're going off track, and they just think that they screwed everything up, when the reality is, if they had managed their expectations better and were more realistic with their goals and understood that maintenance is progress and a little bit of progress is amazing progress, then they wouldn't have felt like a failure and they wouldn't have given up. So please, if you decide to stay in a deficit throughout the holiday season, do not expect rapid progress. And I'll tell you what, if you try for rapid progress, you radically decrease your calories, then when you go for Thanksgiving dinner, or when you go for Christmas dinner, or when you go for New Year's, you're gonna binge. I shouldn't say you're going to, but you're way more likely to, because you're gonna spend the majority of your time throughout the holiday season restricting, with the end goal of, oh, when Thanksgiving comes, I'm gonna eat fucking everything, bro. I'm gonna eat everything. And then what happens? You eat everything, you feel like a failure, and then all the leftovers, and we're gonna talk about that later, you go for all of Thanksgiving, for that whole week, and then you're like, ah, fuck it, I gained back everything that I lost, what's the point? And then you just say, screw it. And you think it was a failure. When in reality, if you had just managed your expectations and didn't give up, you would have been fine. Now, you don't need to track your calories to be in a calorie deficit, but personally, I prefer to, so that you get a better idea of whether or not you're actually doing it. So if you want to be in a deficit, try tracking your calories. If you have disordered eating habits, if you have binge eating and calorie counting triggers it, don't do it. But if you're serious about losing fat over the holiday season, it might be a really good idea. Now, here's something that a lot of people overlook, and when I say it, they're like, oh wow, that makes a lot of sense, but until I say it, they almost forget about it. Just because you're counting your calories during the holiday season doesn't mean you need to count your calories on the holidays. The vast majority of the holiday season is not an actual holiday. One of the most common questions we got, where is it, Rico, was leftovers, was what to do with all the food after. That's not the holiday, that's you continuing to eat like an asshole after the holiday or before it. You can track your calories leading up to a holiday and after the holiday, and enjoy the holiday without tracking a single thing and be totally fine, because, as you know, no one ever got fat from having one bad meal, no one ever got skinny from having one good meal, no one ever got jacked from having one great workout, no one ever lost all their strength from missing a workout. This is all about consistency over time, and my goal here in this section, more than giving you like specific tactics to lose rapid fat loss over the holidays, I want to improve your mindset so you really know, number one, what the fuck good progress is, and number two, that as long as you stay consistent and you don't try and do this radically, you're gonna come out on top. So if you decide to stay in a deficit, my recommendation would be this. When it's not a holiday, when you're not having a family dinner, when you're not at a social event, track your calories. That's the vast majority of the holiday season. And then, when you go to a Christmas party, when you go to a Hanukkah party, when you go to a New Year's party, when you go to Thanksgiving, you can enjoy yourself. And keeping in mind, enjoying yourself does not mean binging. We're gonna talk about that. You can enjoy yourself guilt-free because you know you're staying on track 90% of the time. And as long as you do that, you will continue to lose fat throughout the holiday season while enjoying the holidays with your family and with your friends without giving up your favorite foods, while also not binging and going crazy and going all out. The less radical you go in either direction, and the more moderate you are, the way more likely you are to succeed. So per usual, here on the YouTube channel, we're gonna cross this one out. If you have any questions about this, feel free to drop them in the comment section. By the way, if you don't subscribe yet, please do. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the video. Rico, let's get to the next question. Okay, this is a really good question. So basically, how are you supposed to count your calories or track your calories if the food is homemade and or you just don't know how many calories are in the food? All right, this is actually perfect because these two go hand in hand. And I want to talk about a couple things with this. The first one, basically going back to here, is this. When you're out at a holiday, you don't have to be tracking. Now, it's not bad if you do, and I'm going to give you some strategies if you want to. But if your goal is to be in a deficit throughout the holidays, or to lose fat throughout the holidays, the one holiday party here, the Thanksgiving party, the New Year's party, the Christmas, the Hanukkah, the 7 to 10 parties, maybe throughout the holiday season, those are not gonna make or break your progress. And you don't need to count every single calorie in order to succeed. And this mindset is so interesting to me because as humans, one thing I've noticed that we do consistently is we focus on the one area, the small little minutia that might hurt our progress and magnify it rather than looking at the vast majority of what we're doing that could be positive and that would absolutely positively impact our progress, but we just focus on the one little eensy weensy teeny tiny fucking thing that really doesn't fucking matter as long as you get right back on track, but we just fucking love to make our problems bigger than they actually are. Go to the holiday party and enjoy it. It's not gonna throw you off track. It's not gonna ruin your progress. That's it. You have to understand that. That's why I really hammered that home here. The vast majority of the holiday season is not eating out unless you decide to, in which case, fine, maybe you want to be in a calorie surplus at that point. But the reality is you have the ability to track your calories every other day and to stay on track as often as possible. So when you do go to these and you don't know the calories, you're totally fine. Now, having said that, I'm gonna give you one strategy if you want to track your calories, and another strategy if you want to be mindful of how much you're eating, but not actually counting your calories. If you want to track your calories, there's two things you need to know. The first is this: you will not know exactly how many calories you're eating. Get that in your head right now. You will not know precisely how many. Even if you have everything laid out in front of you on a perfect day, you still don't really know exactly how many calories there is. It's like there's always some error. But when it's homemade food and there's a lot of fucking stuff and there's just like an amazing situation of all this great food that you get to once a year, you're not gonna have the precise numbers. So understand that now. If you're getting anxiety trying to figure out what the exact calories are, stop. You're not gonna find the exact calories. So you have to go to the next best thing. Now what I would recommend is getting a calorie app. My personal favorite is Mike's Macros. It's really good. MyFitnessPal, it works. FitDay, it works. There's a bunch. Choose one, download it. It's free. Use them. And what you can do is, if you want, just put in what you're eating. There could be 17 different options in the calorie app, and they could range in calories from like 100 calories to 1,000 calories, who knows? At least you're getting an estimate. At least you're getting a number. And a lot of people are like, well, like, I need to know the exact number. It's like, for me, that sort of is like when you're driving and you want to make sure you're hitting the speed limit, are you just watching your speedometer the whole time? Like, oh, if I don't look at the speedometer, I don't know how fast I'm going. You don't need to look at the speedometer the entire time you're driving. And you don't need an exact measurement the entire time. Use your best guess. Having an idea of how much you're eating, just by the fact that you're writing it all down, is way better than not tracking it all. Now, on the other hand, let's say you want to monitor how much you're eating, keep your calories in check, but you don't actually want to track them, you don't want to count them. Here's what I recommend. And by the way, I've actually spoken about this before in a video called How to Make Fat Loss More Sustainable. The link is in the description. And what I spoke about was essentially creating a bright line, creating rules ahead of time. What happens is this: a lot of times people get nervous or anxious about going to these parties, going to events, to social gatherings, to holiday parties. They get nervous. They don't want to ruin their progress. But what happens is that anxiety increases when they don't have a plan, when they don't know what they're going to do. And if you've decided you're not going to count calories, totally fine. But you need to have a plan. You need to have something in place. And for me, I would recommend making a clear set guideline on exactly how much you will eat. For me personally, I like to say, one plate. You get one plate of food, and you can put whatever the fuck on it you want, but it's one plate. If you want to stack that shit high, go for it. At least that way, you're limited to one plate. Whereas most people, when there's a buffet of things and they have multiple plates, they eat way more than they expect or intend to, and then they feel awful. When you limit yourself to one plate, even though it might be more calories than you should be eating in a deficit, at least you're limiting yourself. And that is where you can set yourself up for success and getting right back on track. So with that said, question number 2 is done. This is gonna be a long fucking video. Hope you like it. If you do, thumbs up, subscribe if you don't already. By the way, now's a good time. If you hashtag Sorting Hat Squad in the comments, you are entered to win a free month in my inner circle. I pick 3 people from every video to win a free month, hashtag Sorting Hat Squad, but you gotta be subscribed to make it count. So do that right now. Let's get to the next question, Rico. Oh yes, sweet treats. How to avoid the sweet treats during the holiday seasons. For whatever reason, cookies were the most common sweet treat. So how do you avoid the sweet treats during the holidays? Don't feel like you need to avoid the fucking sweet treats. If you want to have some sweet treats, why am I saying sweet treats so many times? If you want to have some sweet treats, fucking sweet treats. You want some sweet treats, have some sweet treats. People run into issues when they feel like they need to avoid the sweet treats. Why am I saying sweet treats so many times? When you demonize a certain food as good or bad, right or wrong, healthy or unhealthy, you are setting yourself up for failure. Period, end of story. I'm not a dogmatic person, but that is a fact from thousands of clients seeing this over and over and over again. When you feel like you need to avoid them, when that's your verbiage and your thought process, when you eventually give in and have one, your first thought is, I fucked up. And what happens when you think you fucked up for enjoying a sweet treat? What happens? You say, well, you know what? I already fucked up, so let's go fucking savage mode. And you have the entire plate. And everyone at fucking Thanksgiving is like, oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is going on over there? Simply by not trying to avoid them, by giving yourself permission to have them, you're going to have more self-control. Binge eating, and we're gonna talk about it later, often stems from feeling like you screwed up. Don't avoid them. Now, we can come up with strategies to moderate them, and that's what I'm gonna help you do right now, but get this fucking word, avoid, out of your vocabulary. I mean, unless the sweet treats like bloat you or they like make you fart like a fucking Bigfoot or whatever it is, if they make you feel bad, avoid it, whatever. But if you enjoy it, it's okay to enjoy it. So rather than saying avoid, I think a better way to phrase this question is, how can I eat some sweet treats, how can I eat some sweet treats in moderation without going full shithead mode? That's a better way to phrase it, right? How can you have some while staying on track? How can you enjoy it without going completely overboard? How can you enjoy it without feeling like you have to restrict it and you can't have any? Where's the balance? I have two really, really effective ways to try and do this. It works super well, so give them a shot. Number one, there's a lot of sweet treats. Fucking sweet treats, Rico. There's a lot of sweet treats at these parties. A lot. And if you look at the research around caloric intake in a single sitting, consistently, when people go to a buffet and there's just endless options, people eat way more calories when they're eating a lot of different types of foods. When there's pie, when there's cake, when there's ice cream, when there's cookies, when there's whatever. What I recommend is this. Pick your favorite one. One. You can have as much of it as you want, and I mean that. You can have as much of that one as you want, but just that one. And what this does is, you're gonna find yourself getting full of it relatively soon. And the crazy part is this, a lot of people, when they give themselves permission to eat it, all of a sudden, they can do it in moderation. When you feel like you're screwing up, when you feel like you should be avoiding it, it becomes an impulse. And you can't stop. You just wanna go, because you don't know when the next time you're gonna eat it is. When you allow yourself to eat it, and you even say you can have as much of it as you want, it's not a big deal anymore, and you're not screwing up. So pick one dessert, pick one sweet treat, have as much as you want. Now, that's the first option. The second one is when you go get whatever you're gonna get, put it all on one plate and make it only that one trip. Do not say, okay, well, I'm gonna go here at 4 p.m., and then I'm gonna go back at 4:30 p.m., and then go back at 5:15, then go back at 7, and one trip. Put it all on one plate, and that's what you can have for dessert that day. If you wanna have a bunch of different ones on one plate, by the way, I'm not talking about like a lunch-sized tray, I mean like a fucking plate, all right? Put whatever you want on that one plate, and if you wanna eat all of it, eat all of it. If you don't wanna eat all of it, don't. But at least this way, you're monitoring how many total calories you're gonna eat, and you're way less likely to go overboard. And then there, you don't feel like a failure, and you stay on track, and you can be more consistent. And that is how you can stay on track and lose fat over the holidays while enjoying it. So with that being said, boom. Next question, Rico. All right, just to be very blunt, this question always baffles me. I don't get it. I'm always like, Jordan, I just don't know how to get back on track. What do you do? And by the way, this is one of the most common questions. There were hundreds of people who put this question in there. I just don't know how to get back on track. What do I do? You get back on track. You fucking start again. That's it. It's like, what the fuck do you think? It's almost like if you have a kid and your kid comes to you and says like, I failed my math test. I don't know what to do. You fucking study harder next time. You go to class, you get there on time, you go to the teacher for extra help. What do you do when you fucking had way more calories? You don't use that as a justification to eat even more. You start again as soon as possible and get back on track. Let's not overcomplicate it. I love to ramble. We don't need to make this any longer. Get the fuck back on track. Let's go, people, come on. Next question, Rico. We're gonna talk about leftovers. I just gotta tell you, every time Rico picks one out, makes the same face, he's like, good question. As though he doesn't know all. I love you, Rico. Rico, seriously, if you don't follow Rico, the link to his Instagram is in the description. Go follow him. He's the fucking man. He's incredible. Go follow him. Let's talk about leftovers. All right, now bear with me, because before we get into the depths of leftovers and what to do and how to handle it, I'm gonna just quickly cover what I'm gonna say, and then tell you what someone in the comments is gonna say, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna say back to them, okay? So I'm gonna say, this is a good segue because you just wanna get back on track. And then someone in the comments is gonna say, yeah, but it's way easier said than done. And I'm gonna say, yeah, everything is fucking easier said than done. A calorie deficit is way easier said than done. All of this is way easier said than done. But just because it's easier said than done doesn't mean it's not worth doing. So with that conversation out of the way, leftovers. They're really fucking hard to deal with because you have all of the delicious food in your fridge, on your countertop, and a lot of times nobody else is there. And sometimes at these parties and events, one of the main things keeping you from fucking inhaling all of it is the fact that everybody's there and you don't want to do it in front of everyone. Now you have all this shit in front of you and you're alone. You're like, yo, I could house this shit, no problem. Let's figure out how to deal with it so you can enjoy it without going completely overboard. Now, people hate when I say this, but it's true, and that's why I'm saying it. There is no hack to this. There's no special way to not gorge on the leftovers. What you have to do and you have to be very aware of is, how are you likely to react with all of this food in the house? You have to be honest with yourself. And really, like for me, for example, if I have pretzels in my house, regardless of the time of year, if there are pretzels, I will eat all of them in one sitting, just because I think pretzels are delicious. So I don't keep pretzels in the house unless I'm willing to eat all of them in that session. If you know that you are going to go bonkers on the leftovers, don't have them in the house. And I know it's like, oh man, I was expecting like a much cooler strategy to handle the leftovers, but it's self-awareness. You just gotta know yourself. And I know there are some people who are like, oh, well, you have to develop a relationship with food where you don't feel like you just have to do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's great in theory, and I agree, but in practice, if you have an alcoholic, you're not just gonna say like, don't have the alcohol. We wanna develop a good relationship with the alcohol. It's like, you get the alcohol out of the fucking house. If you know you're gonna house all this stuff, you know you're gonna just down it, don't bring it home. That being said, one of the things that I like to do, and one of the more common questions that we got here was struggling to hit protein intake during the holidays. So if there's leftovers, what I try and do is I try and get the protein leftovers. Any type of meat, any of the high protein stuff, I bring that because that's gonna help me a lot. Any vegetables, I'll try and bring that back. I will not accept desserts, sweet treats, unless it's pie. I fucking love pie. I'll be okay eating a whole pie because it's worth it for me. If it's cookies, it's not worth it for me. Anyway, you have to figure out what's worth it for you. If you want to be in a deficit during the holidays, the week after Thanksgiving is not Thanksgiving. So if you know you're gonna have a ton of leftovers and you're gonna just eat them all, don't take them home. Give them to a homeless shelter. Have someone else take them. You're not obligated to. And if you think you are, we're gonna talk about family pressure. If you think you're obligated to, you're not. You don't have to do anything you don't wanna do. Do what is best for you always. So, with that being said, be honest with yourself. If you wanna be in a calorie deficit and you know having those in the house is gonna ruin it, don't have them. If you don't need to be in a calorie deficit and you want them in the house, have them. Either way, be honest with yourself and do what you know is right. And realistically, another way to think about it is this, and I'll end it on this note. Make the decision that is going to allow yourself to be proud of yourself when you look back, when you're at the holiday party and they're like, oh, here, take the sugar cookies. We have 5,000. Think, will you be proud of yourself that you felt pressured into taking it, so you gave into the pressure when they probably wouldn't have given a fuck anyway? Or will you be proud of yourself that you said, no, trying to be good, trying to hit my goals, so I'm not gonna take it, thank you though, and walk out. What are you gonna be more proud of? Do that. Next question, Rico. Rico makes that face. Oh, family pressure. This one was the single most common question that we got on Instagram. How to deal with family pressure. So this was actually really surprising to Rico and I. Not that this was an issue, but how many people asked specifically about this. By far, the reason it's in the middle is because so many people asked about this. It was the most common question. And before I dive into the specifics here, keep that in mind. If you're struggling with family pressure and you're getting anxious, you're getting angry, you're not alone. This is very common. If you're into fitness, you're into health, you will pay attention to what you eat, you focus on working out, you probably go through this with your family, with your friends, with your colleagues. In some way, you're getting pressure from someone. And there's a million ways to be pressured. I mean, you could have your Uncle Kenneth, who is sitting across the table being like, you know, I read a blog post, said sugar is inflammatory, gonna kill you. That's why I went keto. You should too. You're looking pretty fat. Fucking Kenneth, thanks, asshole. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then you could have your great aunt Ida, who's coming over. She's 140 years old, She's been slaving over food, and she comes, she's like, oh, please, I made this for you. I knew it was your favorite. I've been making this one dish for 7 years. Please, have some. And you feel awful because you don't want Aunt Ida to feel bad. And other pressure, I mean, what other pressure do we have? Oh, Brenda, how could we forget? She's sitting right next to you, eyeing all your food, and every time you put something in your mouth, she's like, ooh, cheese. You're eating that? You know how long you're gonna have to run to burn that off? I mean, it looks like you're packing on the pounds, you know what I mean? It's pretty brave of you to be eating that apple pie. F you, Brenda. Listen, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure, and it sucks. It's funny, I wrote an article a long time ago in which I called people like this depleters. They just deplete you of your energy. You're sitting there, you wanna fucking enjoy yourself. You're with your family, and all around you, you're getting depleted of energy from someone telling you you're not eating the right way, from someone telling you to eat less, from someone telling you to eat more, from every direction. And it sucks and it's draining. Now I just call them dementors because they just suck the soul out of you. They suck the happiness out of you. But here's the thing, we could stand here all day and talk about how fucking awful it is, and how annoying it is, and how terrible it is, and all the pressure from everybody around us. But the truth is this, complaining about it does nothing. Say that one more time. Complaining about this does nothing. And you're more than welcome to complain about it, and the reality is you're justified in doing so. But you have to think, what am I getting out of it? It's not helping. And the only person that you have control over is you. That's it. You can't control fucking Kenneth. You can't control Brenda. And bless Ida's soul, bless her heart, she went out of her way, spent 7 years cooking that one dish for you. You don't want to hurt her feelings, but the reality is this, nobody gives a fuck. When they go home at the end of the party, no one is gonna be like, I can't believe they didn't take that fucking slice of pie. I can't believe it. And if they did, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter, it doesn't affect you. If they're really mad at you about that, then like that's their problem, not yours. And sort of like we spoke about here, what are you gonna be more proud of once it's all said and done? Are you gonna be proud that you got into a raging fight with Kenneth? Are you gonna be proud that you called Brenda a bitch? Are you gonna be proud that you're complaining about this on your story? Are you gonna be proud that you ate all of the stuff that Ida cooked for you just because you didn't want to hurt her feelings? Or are you gonna be proud that you did what was right for you because it's what you want to do? I can't tell you the answer. For me, it's usually doing what I know is right for me. Because even if in the short term, it creates a little friction, even if in the short term, there's a little bit of uncomfortable tension, long term, I feel good. I don't resent anybody. I can do what I want to do, I can achieve my goals, and not blame anybody else but myself. Family pressure is very difficult in all aspects of life. Societal pressure is very difficult. Pressures from your colleagues, friends, family, everyone. But no matter what, no matter how much pressure, you can't try and control them. You can't try and control the environment, because the more you do that, the more you're gonna think that you have no control at all. And that's just not true, because you have 100% control over what you do. So if you deal with this, if you deal with the depleters, you deal with the dementors, I'm sorry, it sucks. But don't forget that you're in control. So with that said, next question, Rico. This one was surprising to me. Basically, how do you deal with wanting to eat everything because it's once a year that all of this is gonna be there? You're not gonna have it any other time. So how do you deal with that? What do you do? Now, this is a great question, and it makes me really glad that Rico and I asked on Instagram, because I would not have thought to put this there, but it was a really common question. I'm not gonna ramble about this. I don't wanna spend too much time on it, because the reality is, like, we know what to do. I'm gonna outline a couple of things that we've already discussed, and then something else to think about on top of it. We already know you could choose one dessert, just one. Have as much of it as you want, but pick one. You already know the one plate option. You can just take as much of them as you want and put it all in one plate. That sort of solves that problem. You can get a taste. I think it's really important to remember, you don't need to eat a whole slice of pie and a whole bowl of ice cream and a whole thing of apple crisp and a whole thing of this in order to get the taste. It's easy to convince yourself you do, especially if you just want an excuse to, but you don't need to. And now the third thing to think about, we've already discussed this, is what decision is gonna make you proud of yourself? I really like this because a lot of us, we make our decisions based on emotions in the moment. We have an impulse to do something, and we do it. Even while you're doing it, you're not happy about it. You don't like it. You're regretting it as you're doing it. And that's why I really like the thought process of thinking about what's gonna make you proud. because it takes you away from the impulsive desire in the moment and it puts you in the future and it allows you to think of things logically. See, what decision do I actually want to make? Because this is one of the biggest struggles people have, right? It's like, we all know generally what to do. We all know we should be eating more fruits and vegetables. We all know we should be going to the gym more. We all know we should be doing this stuff, but we're not always doing what we know we should do. And a lot of that is based on impulsive decisions, impulsive actions. And the more you can think about it logically, you can put yourself in that future time zone and think what's gonna make me proud, the easier it is to make the decision you know you want to make. Now, the last thing to think about is this. If you wanna eat everything because it's the once a year thing, and it truly is the once a year thing, go for it. Go nuts. No one ever got fat from one night. You could have as much as you want. It's not gonna make you fat. Just like not eating for a week, not a smart idea, but you're not all of a sudden gonna lose a ton of fat just from not eating for a week. Eating as much as you possibly can in one night or even for a week isn't gonna all of a sudden make you fat. If you really, really believe that this is something that you wanna, this is the sword you wanna die on, then go for it. Enjoy it, but don't feel guilty about it. If you're gonna make the decision to do it, enjoy it. Don't do it and be like, oh, I'm a pig. If you're gonna go all in, you go all in. You eat the whole fucking pie, you eat the whole cake, you eat the whole pizza. I don't know what family has pizza at Thanksgiving, but maybe you do. Maybe I'm gonna start doing, we should do that. Make your decision and live by it. Make that decision, be decisive and own it. And the more you own it, the less guilt you're gonna feel. And the less guilt you feel, the less likely you are to think you fucked up. And the less likely you are to think you have fucked up, the more likely you are to get back on track. That's how this works. And again, that's how we get consistent, and that's how we make progress. That said, next question, Rico. Portion control. At this point, I feel like I don't really need to repeat myself very much. I'm not gonna go on a rant here. Make your decision and live by it. If you wanna eat in a calorie deficit, do it not during the holiday night. If you wanna lose fat during the holidays, don't focus on doing it at the single most hard time, most challenging time. Do it the other days. When you're struggling with portion control, if you wanna track your calories, count your calories. That's like the single most effective way, the most accurate way. If you don't wanna do that, set a limit. X number of plates, X number of snacks. The reality is this. I could come on here and I could tell you all these fancy ways to structure your portion control, but the reality is, you know. And that's really the greatest benefit of all, you know. That's why I like to think about, don't eat like an asshole. Unless you wanna eat like an asshole, in which case go for it. Have way too much. One day isn't gonna kill you. But if you want to pay attention to portion control, if you really do, make the decision before you go. Make the decision before you go to Thanksgiving dinner. Make the decision before you go to Hanukkah. Make the decision before you go to Christmas. Make the decision before you go to New Year's. Make the decision. What are you gonna have? How much? One plate? One order? If you go out to a restaurant, are you gonna make sure that you're gonna split your order in half and put it in a to-go box from the very beginning? These are all valid options. But make your decision and live by it. Have the bright line, and the more specific you are, and the more you adhere to it, the more likely you are to get back on track and be consistent. Next question. Alcohol. This has been a hot button topic lately. How to deal with alcohol. Now, the first thing I want to discuss is this. I've gotten a lot of questions recently from people who've been told that the calories in alcohol are different than the calories in food. They are not. All calories are created equal. Doesn't matter if it's a calorie from alcohol, doesn't matter if it's a calorie from carbs, doesn't matter if it's a calorie from fruit, doesn't matter if it's a calorie from a Big Mac, doesn't matter if it's a calorie from broccoli. A calorie is a calorie is a calorie because it's just a unit of measurement. That's it. Most people who struggle with gaining weight during the holidays, really going overboard, it's not directly because of the alcohol. It's not because they're drinking thousands of calories. Now, some people do, sure. I would say if you're drinking thousands of calories in alcohol, you probably have a problem. But usually, people will have a few drinks, maybe a couple too many, but a few drinks, and then they'll eat a ton, and they end up binging. That's usually what happens. I mean, you see this in college all the time. People go out to drink on a Friday night, and then they go get a large pizza, then they go back to their dorm, and they like house the Cinnamon Toast Crunch box all by themselves, and they have the whole sleeve of bagels, and blah, blah, blah. It's not the alcohol, it's what you do after the alcohol. And if you know that if you drink, you're gonna go nuts, this is when having a bright line is the most important. Because even when you're a little bit drunk, you could say, hey, my bright line said I could only have one plate. So that's that. That was my drunk impression. That probably sucked. We're gonna keep that in there. We're not gonna cut that out. Make your bright line. Your bright line can be how much alcohol you're gonna have, 1 glasses, 2 glasses, what type of alcohol, beer, clear liquor, whatever it is. Your bright line could also and or be how much food you're gonna have, calories, plates, whatever. You choose, make it specific, but make your bright line something you will not break, regardless of how fucked up you get, unless like you're really fucked up and you're like, all right, whatever, I'm gonna get back on track tomorrow. But if you say that, then really get back on track tomorrow. Don't sit there and be like, oh my God, I drank so much and then I had the entire pie and the ice cream cake and then I went to Auntie Annie's and got way too many cinnamon sugar pretzels. Get back on track. You're never more than 1 bite away. Next question. Which leads us to the last one. This actually couldn't have worked out better. Binge eating. This is another one of the most common questions, like literally hundreds of people asking about how to prevent binge eating. And I wanna say this, before I go into it, I have several videos on how to stop binge eating, both my story on overcoming binge eating from a competitive wrestler and powerlifter in the description. Rico's like, the link is in the description. Also another video just giving more explicit instructions on how to overcome binge eating. Both of those links are in the description and they're very helpful. Please watch them. What I want to cover here, more than any specific tips or strategies, which are in the videos linked in the description, I want to discuss why people tend to binge eat. Because when you know why it happens, you're better able to prevent it because you're more aware. And we've already discussed this in the video, but I'm gonna reiterate it and specifically relate it to binge eating. Most people binge eat when they feel like they screwed up. It comes already right back to number 1, the first thing we spoke about. Or actually, no, it wasn't number 1. It was how to avoid the sweet treats. Here we are with the sweet treats thing again. When you think that you screwed up, you will use that as a justification to keep screwing up. Now, here's what's really interesting, especially during the holidays, and it sort of ties into this one, but like, oh my God, this is only gonna be here for this one night, for this one time. A lot of times people will use that as a justification to eat way too much, and they always regret it. Most people are never happy when they eat way past the point of discomfort. They eat and eat and eat emotionally, not because they're enjoying it, but because out of fear, number 1, that they're screwing up, and out of fear that I don't know when the next time I'm gonna be able to eat this is, so I'm gonna eat as much of it now so that I can get the best of it. It is a very dangerous mindset to get into. And this is why I'm a big proponent of flexible dieting, because when you are a more flexible dieter and you don't demonize foods, then you are allowed to have this holiday treats, sweet treats, whenever you want. It doesn't mean eat as much as you want. It doesn't mean you should have them all day, every day. Obviously, the vast majority of your diet should be minimally processed, nutrient-dense foods. Fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, blah, blah, blah. But if you're demonizing foods, you are setting yourself up to binge eat. The reality is this, if you want apple pie or whatever, you can have it whenever you want. It's not bad, it's not gonna ruin your progress. And the more you internalize this, the less likely you are to binge eat. Binge eating is a very complex topic and there's way more to it than this. And if you struggle with it, I would encourage you to seek out a professional. It's very important. I'll say 2 things. Number 1, if you struggle with binge eating, you can overcome it. I promise you, you can. It might seem like there's no hope. It might seem like you have no control over it. I promise you, you can. It's very difficult, but you can do it, and I encourage you to seek out a professional. Aside from that, even though it might be hard to believe, and this is one of the most common questions I get, most common messages I get, I know you say there are no bad foods, but I just can't help but feel guilty. I would encourage you, I know it's very difficult, especially with all the misinformation coming in. What do you have to lose from trying? If you're already in a place in which you're very unhappy and you know you don't want to be there, what do you have to lose from giving it a shot, from not demonizing foods? Hasn't worked for you thus far. Try to live a more flexible lifestyle. Try to be okay with moderation. Think about what advice you would give your best friend. If your best friend told you they felt awful for having a slice of pie, what would you tell them? And then what would you tell yourself? If you treat yourself differently than you treat your best friend, that's something to discuss and consider. I'm gonna end on this. I'm gonna reiterate it. There's no such thing as a good or bad food. And the more you internalize that, and the less you think that you fucked up, because you didn't, the less you're gonna binge eat, the better progress you're gonna make, the easier it's gonna be for you to get back on track, and the more consistent you're gonna be. So, with that being said and done, I hope you enjoyed the video. Probably way longer than Rico or I anticipated, but we hope it helped. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you don't already. Sorting Hat Squad, hashtag Sorting Hat Squad, if you would like to enter to win a free month in the Inner Circle. And also, I'm gonna leave you with this. If you sign up today, I believe it's the last day, maybe tomorrow, depending on when we publish this, I'm running a 30-day calorie cycling for fat loss challenge, and I'm specifically doing this over the holidays, regardless of whether or not you want to lose fat. The purpose of this challenge is to help you develop a healthier relationship with food. If you want to lose fat, great. If you don't want to lose fat, you don't have to. Because this challenge, it's split between, yeah, we'll have some body composition pictures, but if you lose weight too quickly, if you lose too much weight over these 30 days, you're not going to win. It's pictures and also a 500-word submission to see what you learn, to see what you gain from doing this mentally and emotionally. And that's what this challenge is about, having a community of people to support you, to improve your relationship with food, and to allow you to enjoy the holidays, to have fun while making progress. All right? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.